What is going on, everyone? Tim from Tierfon Orbital again. As you can see, I'm wearing the same outfit. I just choose to wear the same thing every day. What's up, everybody? So, yeah, again, this is just a very quick rundown video on a commission install that I recently completed on a Space Junk Sabers hilt. So, I'm going to try not to gush too much about how much I love hilts from Nevin at Space Junk Sabers. However, this is the first time I've seen a Fallen Order styled hilt from the Space Junk camp. It is a really rad looking hilt. The pommel is gnarly. So we will talk about the chassis. I did do a custom chassis design and install on this hilt, and then we will talk about how to use it. We will of course put a blade in it, and then we will be on our way. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. We'll talk about the chassis first. So let's come into Fusion. Here is the chassis that I designed for this hilt. This is a static, straight chassis. Are there curved chassis? Yes. Why would there be a curved chassis in this hilt? There wouldn't be. So this is a straight chassis secured with a set screw in the upper part of the hilt. There's actually a crystal chamber module that sits on top of this, and I'll show this on the up and close. But the crystal chamber module has been secured to the top part of this chassis, and then that crystal chamber module subsequently secures to the rest of the hilt with a set screw. That sounded incredibly confusing, and I'm sorry, but we'll talk about it when we do an up close, right? So, battery tray is here. Around the bottom, we've got a 24mm speaker from Smuggler's Outpost. I do have two channels here for flexible Edison filaments. I did a install recently where I kicked the filament. It's on this particular one, I did it with two. As you can probably tell, I have a plethora of Edison filaments, so now I'm just finding reasons to slam them all over things, right? So I put two Edison filaments on this chassis. They are their own animated blade. They're just treated as a regular LED, right? Around back, or around the top here, this is where the Proffieboard sits. It does slide up underneath this lip to help secure it. I did put Space Junk Sabers on one side, and of course, Tierfon Orbital around the other, right? So very simple setup. There is a kill switch around back as well. Okay, so let's come up top and talk about the hilt. So here's the hilt. Look, yeah, it's a long one. It almost, yeah, it doesn't fit in frame. I got to keep it down here. This thing is really rad, right? So obviously it's got the cowl from Fallen Order aesthetic with these two shrouds up here. I actually believe that this grip is from either a POC store, Fallen, or maybe a Saber Forge, Fallen. But yeah, this pommel is gnarly. This looks like a stator motor winding. There's just a bunch of copper wire down here. This thing is so rad. I was hoping that I would be able to get some lights down here. But unfortunately, given the length of this grip and the internal diameter down here, I just was not able to do that. But that being said, it's still just a gnarly looking pommel. I mean, I'm sure Nevin probably gouged all of this stuff by hand. Just a really cool looking hilt, right? So we do have an exposed crystal chamber up here. I was able to wire both an upper and a lower neopixel to light that crystal. Around back is where our switches are. There are two switches on this. Top is your main, bottom is your aux. And that's it, right? Look at these. I mean, just so rad. So rad. I mean, we've got the bunny ears here. Another thing that I really love, these two, so these it looks like Graflex red button replicas or set screws. These serve as your blade retention. So I really love that Nevin incorporated that into this build. That is just a phenomenal piece of ingenuity that I love seeing, right? So to use the hilt, you want to unscrew your grip, slide it all of the way off. So I do want to give this disclaimer, right? So we do have a very long relatively thin chassis. To the client, please try your best not to drop this hilt while the grip is off. As I said, this entire chassis secures inside of the base of this crystal chamber, and that secures to the hilt with this set screw here. Now, that being said, this is with all resin chassis, in my opinion. They can be delicate to use, right? It's not as robust as FDM, so I just like to give that disclaimer. Just be delicate with it when the grip is off, right? Proffieboard is here that is press fit and slides up underneath that lip, like I said. I did a pass of rub and buff on this chassis. I did paint some of the accents a little bit just to make it pop. I like adding little touches of color like this red and blue here just to make it more unique, right? So, spring side is your negative. You want to take the flat part of your battery, set it in your tray, hit your kill switch. So there's those Edison filaments, okay? And around the front, here's that crystal chamber, right? So, let's come down to the bottom. So once you get your battery in, once you have your battery in, you want to slide your grip on, screw it in all of the way until it stops, and then you're ready to go. So twist to activate, twist to deactivate are on. There's that crystal chamber. It is its own animation. So this particular font, it's got like a warm-up animation, and then it goes to unstable, like the blade. Whew, man, this thing is so rad. Let's see what else we've got on here.
Your father's lightsaber.
Different animation on that crystal. So each font has its own animation for the crystal. I kept the config for the onboard Edison filaments the same across the board, just to save space in the config file, right? So we do have a really, really cool blade plug up here. This is also a custom blade plug from Nevin. Really, really love that. The client on this particular install requested a stock PCB emitter, and that is also its own blade. So you can have separate animations in that PCB emitter while the blade is out if the client wants to do that, right? That was a request. So let's put a blade in it. This is a 7/8 inch blade holder. It's a little tricky because initially I thought that this was a 1-inch blade holder. It starts off at 1 inch, but it steps down to 7/8. I mean, there's plenty of blade depth, so it's perfect. But yeah, I thought this was a 1 inch. So once you get your blade in, you tighten those 2 red buttons as blade retention. I love that. Love that. And then you're ready to go, right? Feels great. I really, really love 7/8 inch blades. I think they look phenomenal.
Ascension.
Great hilt. You know, it's heavy. It's heavy, but in a good way. It's really, really well balanced. I love it. Love it. Really great hilt. You're probably saying, Tim, have you ever had a hilt that you absolutely hate? Yeah, it's happened. It happens. Great hilt. So aux is your bottom lockup. Works. Flash in works. To cycle through color on the color wheel, you want to hold down aux and tap main. When you find a color you like, you tap main again and it'll lock it in. And that's it, right? Man, this thing's rad. Really, really rad. So, let me get this blade out of here. So that's it. I don't typically do this with my PCB emitters. Have them there as their own separate animation. So this is the first time, I mean, full disclosure, this is the first time I've actually wired up an emitter to have separate animations. It's a cool feature to have. Pretty interesting, right? But that's it. Oops. But that's it. Just a really, really unique hilt from Space Junk Sabers. They're all unique from Nevin, right? This thing is just really, really gnarly looking. So that's it. I don't think I have anything else to say about this hilt. It's just a phenomenal hilt. So to the client, thank you very, very much for trusting me with your install. To the viewers, everybody, thank you so much for your support. This community, it never ceases to amaze me how supportive everyone is and how much camaraderie, in my experience, there is, right? So we try really hard to stay away from the drama. It's not always easy. But yeah, I've always had I've had nothing but great interactions with people in the community. So thank you very much to everyone. With that being said, may the force be with you always. Thanks for watching, everybody.